Hi everyone, I'm Silvia Ospina, an artist and designer, and today I'm going to show you how to take your hand-painted artworks and digitize them beautifully in Procreate. If you're working with assets that have clear, high-contrast borders, you will find that the selections are easier and cleaner. This is because clearer edges allow Procreate's selection tools to differentiate better the elements from the background. However, it's not all about the edges. The texture of the paper also plays a big role, especially when using the color selection tool. More textured paper can make it more challenging for the software to isolate the artworks precisely. In my case, I'm using color pencils on a medium textured paper, which means that my selection won't be super crisp or tidy. So to refine my selections, I'm going to use masks and a soft brush to tidy the edges. You will need to judge for yourself how polished or soft you want your selection's edges to be. Some assets might be trickier to isolate than others, but with a little patience and brush work, you will achieve the clean, beautiful edges you're looking for. I love using Procreate for digital drawing, but I am still a fan of traditional tools. Even though Procreate can mimic many painting techniques, sometimes I just want to use my real tools. Plus, walking around with my iPad in Barcelona doesn't always feel that safe, but I can always carry a notebook and some color pencils or brushes with me. This notebook, by the way, is from Muji. I think their sketchbooks are pretty good. Their quality is really great. I bought this sketchbook ages ago in London. This is in the Royal Academy, and then I left it, and this summer I grabbed it back and I started drawing fun things. All of these elements are from my living room. This summer I went to Portugal with some friends and I was getting inspiration from things I was doing, such as, eating sardines, wine, grabbing some shells from the beach. We were eating a lot. I didn't take my bikini off. But this is my bikini, coffee, olives. We went to a place called Isla Desierta. These are the friends that I was traveling with. And then I painted these houseplants live on my first ever Instagram live. That was quite nerve-wracking, but it was very interesting, and I'm gonna keep on doing it on my Patreon. So in my case, my elements are full of color. But if you're going to be digitizing elements where only the silhouette is visible, like these ones, maybe it's better if you make sure that the border of your drawings is well contrasted and has no gaps. And what I mean with no gaps is if you have a drawing that is like this, and then you're gonna use the magic wand to select this white, then this selection is going to slip through this hole and select this as well. So if you want to select the objects and their backgrounds, just make sure to close your assets. I'm going to show you how to digitize these houseplants because I'm then going to create a pattern with them. All right, let's dive in and let's get started with the first step. So first of all, to digitize your assets, you have several options. You can take a photograph with a good camera or a good phone. It is important to make sure that your phone is capable of getting high-res photographs. But since this is not always the case, I advise to use a scanner. Why? Because the scanner is going to grab everything, is not going to create any shadows. You're not going to have problems with perspective. And you can also check that it is scanning at 300 dpi, which will then give you enough resolution for printing, or even at 600 dpi. I could scan these houseplants twice its size by using 600 dpi, and then that would allow me to use them, for example, for a duvet cover and have them twice as big. So I'm going to go ahead and scan my assets. Please go ahead and scan yours. The most important thing is that you scan at least 300 dpi because this will give you enough resolution for then printing it. I'm actually going to put 600 in this box, so my assets scan twice their size. Each scanner works differently, so you should check how yours work. I'm going to select the area that I want to scan. That's going to be saved on my desktop. And from this drop-down menu, you'll probably get JPEG, but if you can select PNG or TIFF, it's better because your scan won't deteriorate over time. So I'm going to tap on scan and wait. So here's my scan. It's a bit dirty, and when you scan things, they're always going to look a little bit like flat without contrast and stuff. So that's why we're going to pass this image onto our iPad and fix it there. There are many ways in which you can transfer an image to an iPad, and you should find your own way. I have an iMac and I love using AirDrop to transfer images from one device to another. So I'm just going to send the image to my iPad. Before we move on, I wanted to quickly share that this tutorial is part of my Skillshare class, Patterns in Procreate, Supercharge Your Workflow with an Image Library. In this class, I'm going to show you a powerful method to create patterns using a library of reusable illustrations, so you never have to start from scratch. We cover everything from building your image library to creating seamless patterns, exploring colorways, and showcasing your designs with mockups. So if you're ready to take your pattern making to the next level, go and check it out. Now let's keep on with the rest of the tutorial. So now my image is in my iPad. I'm going to rotate it here because why not? There you go. And I'm going to open it in Procreate. So I'm going to open my image library and tap on import. Actually, I'm going to tap on photo. There's my photo. The first thing I'm going to do is duplicate this image just in case I damage it. I have the original one. As you can see, this image is a little bit yellow here. I don't know if you can see it in camera, but it is a tiny bit yellow. For some reason, it has scanned like that, or maybe it's because the paper has a bit of a warm tone to it. So the first thing we're going to do is improve the look of our scanned assets using the adjustment tools. So I'm going to tap on the adjustment tools and I'm going to tap on curves. The first thing we want to do is bring the contrast of this image back. So with the top blue node, you can modify the brightness by moving it to the left. You will get rid of the paper texture. So you move it slightly until you can see that the background has been cleaned. With the bottom blue node, you can increase the contrast. So if you move it to the right, then you can see that the contrast of my image is brought back. And then if you see that your image is too light or something, you can create new nodes in the middle and start bringing them up and down to see how your image changes and decide on what type of style you want. I'm going to leave it there. And now my image is looking contrasted and the white paper of the background is white. Once you've adjusted the background, you can also open the hue, saturation, and brightness and modify the saturation in here and the brightness. And one thing that sometimes I like to increase a little bit is the sharpness. So in the adjustment tools, you can tap on sharpen. And by moving your pen slightly to the right and the left, you can increase the sharpness of your image and bring that crisp look back. So those are the main tools I use for fixing the image before I start erasing the background. In this part of the tutorial, we're going to isolate our images by erasing their background. Now, there are various ways of doing this. One would be to use the eraser to erase all the background, but I'm going to show you how to select the background first using the selection tools available in Procreate, and then I'm going to show you how to use a mask to polish this selection. As I said at the beginning of this tutorial, this method will vary depending on the technique of the painting or drawing that you're digitizing. I'm going to use color pencils on a medium textured paper, and my selection is going to look very untidy. This is going to be great because it will serve me as an example on how to manage challenging situations. To display the selection tools, you have to tap on the third icon on the top left of your screen, and this will display this bottom menu. We're going to use the automatic option, but you're welcome to play around with the other options to understand what they do. With the automatic option, you can select the colors of your canvas. In this case, we want to get rid of the white background, so I'm going to tap anywhere on the white background paper. See how if I leave my pen on the screen and move it to the right and the left, I can control the threshold. Now, the color threshold adjusts how much of the surrounding area is included in the selection based on color similarity. Higher thresholds include more similar colors, while lower thresholds keep the selection tighter. I thought I had erased the texture of the paper of my image by adjusting the brightness and contrast of the illustration, but clearly the paper texture remains in here. This might not always be the case and varies a lot depending on the type of paper and technique that you're using. Down here, you have other selection modes that you can test, like the freehand one that allows you to create the selection by hand, which might seem practical, but I don't recommend it really in this case. You can invert your selection by tapping on this invert icon, and I'm going to tap on the different areas of my artwork and increase the threshold until the background is selected. You can tap on different areas and control the threshold by moving your pen. You can also add areas to your selection by tapping on them. Take your time refining your selection and judge when to stop. You should only select your background. Don't worry about the borders. I know that in this case they look very untidy, but that's why I'm going to show you how to use a mask to tidy this selection. This has been added to the selection, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to show you how to create a mask in Procreate. So I'm going to tap on the layer panel, tap on my layer and tap on mask. I'm going to tap on the selection icon to exit the selection tools and tap a background color so that we can see this mask. It has been applied to the objects and we need to invert it so that it's applied on the paper. So open the layer panel, tap on the mask layer and tap on invert, which is down here. I'm going to change the background color back to black to see my mask clearly. And now we're going to fix this selection. I'm going to tap on the brush icon. I'm going to search for the inking collection and I'm going to be using the studio pen to polish my mask, but you can use any other brush that you want. I invite you to experiment and judge for yourself what's better for your drawings. Always make sure that you are working on the layer mask. Otherwise, you're going to be painting with white or black over your drawings and you don't want that. Now, select the whitest color that you can and you'll be able to erase the mask. If you want to add areas to your selection, you will have to use the eraser tool. If you tap your pen twice, you will be able to swap in between the brush and the eraser very easily. I am aware that this doesn't work on every iPad, so depending on your iPad, it might not work for you and you would have to do it manually, which will consume a bit more of time, but it works as well. Depending on the technique that you are trying to digitize, this process of polishing the mask might take longer or it might be super easy. Try to focus on the borders and don't worry too much about the pixels you see lying around. Since I can draw directly in Procreate, there are some cases like these very thin stems where I rather discard the mask and redraw them by hand. Now it's difficult to guess where these stems are, so something that I find very helpful is to grab the initial layer which contains the asset with the background, put the layer on top, lower its opacity, and this will serve me as reference of where to erase or add areas to my mask. You might actually want to lock this layer and always make sure that you are drawing on top of your mask and not on top of your assets. Take your time polishing your mask. This part is really key to the whole process. The cleaner and more precise your borders are, the more versatile your assets will be later on. If you're happy with how the edges of your images look, you'll have these artworks ready to be used in all sorts of future projects. Whether that's creating patterns, incorporating them into larger designs, or any other creative ideas you might have. So think of this as an investment in your creative toolkit. A little extra care here goes a long way in making your assets usable for many possibilities. There are some cases where I actually like the texture of the borders. So, I don't mind this texture here, which is quite rough. It might be a little bit different than this one, but that's okay. Here, I decided to grab the dry ink brush and actually draw a little bit on top. In the end, these are meant to be flowers. So, a bit of white texture is actually going to enhance the whole thing. And that's the cool thing about Procreate. You can just like draw on top of your live drawings. Okay, so I'm happy with how this is looking. So now I'm going to apply this mask to my drawing. I'm going to change the color of my background to this pink, because otherwise it can get confusing. And basically I'm just going to pinch these layers to apply the mask and erase the background. Now these images have been isolated, which is awesome. Finally, I'm going to show you how to place each of these images on its own layer and export them as PNG files. I'm going to tap on the selection tools and tap on freehand this time. And I'm going to start selecting each of these items, swiping 3 fingers down and tapping on cut and paste. You can see that now this drawing has been isolated onto its own layer. When possible, I advise you to try to create the selection near to the borders of your drawing. By doing so, you will be discarding any unwanted pixels that are lying around. You will have to probably use the eraser tool later on, but this will help you in the process. And if your items are too large, you can divide the selection into 2 phases. In this case, for example, I can start by selecting the flowers. This will allow me to have more control over the selection. Tap on the Add button, select the bottom part, and then tap on Add again. Swipe 3 fingers, make sure that I'm in the right layer, swipe 3 fingers down, tap on Cut and Paste, and now it's on its own layer. Take your time separating your images into different layers. Okay, now that I have isolated all of my assets, I'm going to go ahead and change the background color back to green. And I have spotted this problem. In this case, clearly I was not drawing on top of my mask, but on top of my assets. So I'm going to erase this black area and zoom in to see if I can spot any unwanted pixels lying around. You can discard them with the eraser tool, or you can discard them with the freehand option to select multiple pixels at the same time. Once you have separated your images into different layers, I'm going to show you how to export them as PNG files with a transparent background. I'm going to start by making my background layer invisible and checking that everything looks alright. Making sure that all the layers that I want to export are visible and the background invisible, I'm going to go ahead and tap on the wrench icon. I'm going to tap on the share icon, and then down here from share layers, I'm going to select PNG files. This is going to start exporting all of these layers as separate images. Then I'm going to tap on save 10 images, and they will be saved into my photo gallery. And finally, I like to add all of these images into my image library. Now, if you want to know more about building your own image library, I invite you to watch my class, Patterns in Procreate, Supercharge Your Workflow with an Image Library. In this class, I'm going to show you a powerful method to create patterns using a library of reusable illustrations, so you never have to start from scratch. We cover everything from building your image library to creating seamless patterns, exploring colorways, and showcasing your designs with mockups. So if you're ready to take your pattern making to the next level, go and check it out. If after watching this video you liked it, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up, as this will motivate me to keep creating content like this. Also, if there's anything specific that you want to learn, you can also leave a comment on the comments of this video, and I will use your comment as inspiration for future tutorials.